Despite a lot of cancellations and postponements of big weddings in 2020, there's been micro weddings and elopements happening throughout these times. Some of the bigger gatherings are starting to surface again with less guests, but flowers are perfectly welcome. They provide the perfect pictures for the wedding. There are several factors involved to pull off successful on-site wedding installations. You have to employ the quickest, most efficient methods, so there's no wasting time once on site. Advanced preparation of all supplies and flowers are a must. All construction with their installation tools and parts must be ready and packed to go. All flowers in water, any unnecessary foliages on the stems stripped in advance. Some of the stems may be cut ahead, the size ready to go, especially if the job is really huge. All water tubes should be filled with water and kept ready to use. A tarp to place under the working area to be used so that especially on surfaces like grass, the cleanup is quick and easy. Least amount of manpower hours on site, the more profitable your event will be. Also, the magic happens here. Quick installation proves that the bride hired the right florist who knows what she is doing. So I'm going to build a suspended tropical nouveau flower cloud over our small sweetheart table for a small wedding on the outdoor deck overlooking the ocean. The flowers I'm going to use for the outdoor installations such as this need to be the kind which hold up really well out of water. Select flowers that hold up for up to 10 hours from the time of install to the end of the event. Most tropical flowers and foliages will hold up to this test. Some temperate flowers like the South American roses and spray roses, carnation chrysanthemums, and some hydrangeas in the fall, etc. can hold up without water also quite well. Anything that is softer and thirsty will require the use of water tubes. The process of designing these installations is called free stemming. Just cut the stem and insert into the prepared structures. It is the quickest and most efficient way to install. Least amount of man-hour brings the highest profit on the job. Free stemming eliminates the weight of water and/or wet foam. You can build a much lighter installations this way. The takedown of these installations is also quick and efficient with free stemming. These installations are for short-term enjoyment, so be prepared to work through the process without adding extra steps, which are not necessary for the number of hours the flowers need to last. So for both tropical nouveau flower installations, for the flower cloud and the sweetheart table, is going to require the mechanic that we call the chicken wire roll. So this is what we want to make many of those, and we have them filled with podocarpus so that the actually chicken wire starts to disappear a little bit. So I just want to show you how to make one of these. You're going to take the 12-inch chicken wire roll, and this is actually from Smithers Oasis, so it's coated, which is really good. You don't want the galvanized, the gray wire. You want the coated so that it doesn't affect its use with water. I'm just going to roll it. It's going to be sort of overlap, but that's okay because this makes it possible for me not to have to cut it up and then so that I can reuse much easier if I want to undo it. So what I want to do, just roll it up, and I have some bind wire, green bind wire cut up so that I can use that to tie this roll in several spots. So I want to go and tie across like this, and close off on this end as well. So let's make it as efficient as possible labor-wise. So something like this. So what I'm going to do is take this podocarpus, and these podocarpus bunches are really, really pretty hefty, and you get a lot out of it. But you can see that as you insert this in, that the look of the chicken wire starts to disappear, that it starts to look more green with podocarpus. That's the whole idea, because then it makes it easier for material, and I'll show you what I mean. If I wanted to insert this into this structure, it makes it much, much easier that it goes through, and you can see how it starts to disappear, this chicken wire, as you start to green it up. So that's the whole idea behind that. And I have several of these, so I want to finish this up. And these are some of the mechanics that you can do in advance. So this is something that, you know, maybe your staff, people that you hire can do this for you ahead of time. The chicken wire roll itself, you can have it done much ahead of time. And once you have it, and if you do a lot of this kind of work, you can just keep it and reuse it over and over again. So what you want to do is insert from one direction and then to the other so that it's much easier. So it's like this. So something like this, and here I have actually some smaller, skinnier ones already made, different sizes. And I also have, and we'll just put this away for now. And we also have all of this that I have made in advance. So this is what I've got to work with. And if we need some more as we build the structure, we will actually make some more. And I also have some water tube that's already filled with water and capped so that they're ready to go for some of the templates that are really tender. I do have some beautiful selection of flowers here, including some templates that are not a little bit thirsty. They're a little softer, so they won't need some water tubes, such as these beautiful dahlias. But you can see how beautiful that would look against some of the peach colored anthuriums, so that's the reason why I have them. So, you know, these are the selection of flowers I've got to work with to do the flower cloud as well as the sweetheart table. So let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is use the beautiful heliconia. These beautiful heliconia with its actually this fantastic heavy stem makes it perfect first set of insertions into this design. So I'm gonna actually run it across and let it hang like over the edge. Let's just do this, kind of do this, so that it hangs over the edge like that. And I'm going to actually zip tie it so that it stays nice and firm. Like that. So this makes it possible for me not to worry about using like branches and such to get the structure built. I'm going to just work on building off of the heliconia stems because they're nice and strong. Now you can see that we had a little bit of a mishap here with some of these heliconia because it's a little too cold here, and you know, it being outside, and some of these were like nice full heliconia, but the bracts have dropped off. So I'm gonna first get this in like this. So I can tie this in first. And so we had 3 more of these. And these, this one here, I'm going to let it lift up. Whoops, there it goes again. Let's zip tie it to the wire. So before we go any further, we're gonna try to repair a few of these bracts that fell because they're so spectacular and beautiful. I don't wanna lose that gorgeous look. So I actually have some pins and I'm going to attempt to pin them in. So all the parts are there, just have to put it together again. Just be careful not to pin yourself while you're doing this though. This one here is just ready to come off, so we want to get that back in. Okay, so that I'm learning that it's better to go from that side and into the bract. The early ones, I did it backwards. I think this is better. Yeah, there we go. These are some of the things that we have to think about as we ship from somewhere where it's really humid and hot to where we are, where it's so much colder. The air is just a lot nippier, and that we have some of these losses. So next I'm going to start working in some of these chicken wire rolls, and I'm going to attach some of this to the heliconia stem, And I'm sort of working in a slight diagonal to start, because then I can start to develop a little bit more dimension with these rolls. So I have that, and I'm going to actually attach this on this side as well. Let's look at this. So we want to also probably, actually let's do this so that we actually cover this up a little bit, the stem, but it gives me something for more stems to insert into. So this gives me extra insertion point for material as well. We're gonna attach. I would attach in 2 spots with zip tie. So you're actually building sort of a rough sculpture into which you'll be flowering. This makes it easy with a zip tie because all you have to do is just connect in through the chicken wire, like the little cell. Pull the zip tie. This one here I'm going to attach to the heliconia. I think it's a great way to utilize its building capacity. So this one, so this is just chicken wire roll to chicken wire roll, but it's nice and strong. The locking action of the zip tie is just so much stronger, and it works. So now that I got most of it done on the top side, let me do this across as well. You can imagine how much faster this would be when you have a couple of assistants. This could be done so quickly, which is really the best part of this structure building, is that as a team, you can get so much done quicker. But it's not to say that as a one-man or 2-people team that you can't do something absolutely spectacular. Now I want to use a couple of skinnier ones and put it on the underside. It's always good to have 2 layers of chicken wire roll on the top and then along the bottom as well, because when you insert stems, you can stab it through both. That gives you really very secure insertion. And you're able to build something that's much stronger and bigger. This kind of structure, because we're not using foam and we're not using any, not a lot of water tube. So, you're really eliminating a lot of the weight that quite often goes with structure building, big installations. And that's the beauty of it, because you want to make sure that your setup is not just dripping and water all over the place, especially when it's indoors. I think that's always a problem. So I'm going to use the palm next. This is Areca palm. So I'm going to stab it into the structure. It's almost like foam, actually. You just stab it through and then through again into another chicken wire roll. That's kind of how you get this done. So I'm going to use this over on this side as well. And some of this, they're nice and big, but some of this, we could actually cut it just a little bit shorter and use 2 of them. So you can just sort of fill with that. We can actually put this in through this. So you can have that. And I may do likewise on the back side and save that for the table. So that gives you that beautiful drape. I'm gonna take some of these Monstera and start stabbing those in. You wanna work from here on to fix the visibility from underneath rather than the top. That's not, unless there's a mirrored ceiling, there's really no need to go much further on the top. Okay, there we go. There. Okay, let's look and see. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do is fill in a little bit with some actual temperate greens, because they're just greens that actually I have on our property. I'm gonna cut it up into smaller pieces and tuck it in to, it's just covering mechanics really. Some of this goes into the chicken wire. Some of it actually go and fill the gap in between the rolls. A little bit of camellia also. So I'll work with that a little bit. You can see how this is already looking. It's really quite spectacular. The amount of dollars that you're going to charge for this is going to depend on really how much flowers you're gonna need to use in this design. But the beauty of this is, you know, I can pretty much use it over and over again from installation to installation. But you can see how they drape really beautifully. They hold up really, really well. If I have a couple of installations that I'm going to be able to take down and redo again for another client, I can get so much more mileage out of this. It's really, really great. So I'm going to just use a little bit of that first, and so that you starting to get that kind of viney look. Yeah, this pretty much kind of gives it that real wild look. So next I'm going to work with the hanging amaranthus. They're perfect for like chandeliers and any kind of suspended work because it just hangs so beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and find spots for me to sort of wedge into this structure, maybe from up in here. And lastly, another one. Let's go. Let's go into that corner right there. You want sort of equal weight on either side so that it doesn't get tippy. Too heavy on one side is not good. And then we're going to use some of these anthuriums, some of the shorts that I have. We're going to start tucking in on the underside, alongside some of these other flowers that we've already inserted. You want to make sure that there's flowers that you see from under the underside. I feel like we need a little bit of foliage. I'm going to use this over on this side as well so that you can see that exotic foliage. They're called accordion palm too for a reason, that it has that beautiful pleating. I think it looks great. And a nice filler, the curly luai. So I want to get that done. So some of those greens just help fill in. So some of these chicken wire roll could get completely covered up. That's what I want, just getting the mechanics all I see that there's a lot there that needs to be covered up. So I do need to get a little bit more. I'm missing a spot that I didn't see. So now I'm gonna go and do a little bit of the Oncidium because they're just some of the prettiest, most beautiful elements. I'm going to, now these ones here, you know, I probably should water tube them. Now we just have to find a spot that it'll go in. Difficult with the tube on it. So now that we've lifted up the flower cloud, you can see how it looks. It looks really quite wonderful. I've just set up the table for just decoration. We're gonna try to do it really quick because we're getting close to nightfall. I'm gonna take actually the palm that were 4 pieces left over. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this to kind of just sweep it into the side. I'm just gonna insert some of these pieces here. I'm gonna actually also take the camellia that I cut from the garden. I'm gonna cut it into little pieces and just sort of tuck it in here and there just to give it a little bit of the bulk. This just gives it a little bit of the local kind of look. I'll use it all up so that you get that little bit of the camellia look in here. And next, we're gonna work with, let's take some Monstera and just tuck it in to just kind of cut the corner there, just to give it a little bit of roundness around the corner. And go so that it's also covers up from the other side, because the other side is where the bride and groom will sit, because it's the sweetheart table. So I'm gonna work it in. So it's going in very nicely. Let's see, I'm just inserting it here so that it ends with that at the bottom, so you don't see that chicken wire at the bottom. But now we're gonna use it all cut up and use it to just make it just the whole thing a little bit bushier. So I'll just insert that. It gives you all that extra greenery. It just slips in really easily and it covers up the mechanics so fast. Some of these cut ends could be just inserted on the back side to just as a fill. Actually, right here, I think it needs a little bit more because I can see the chicken wire roll. Don't want that. So you want that seam so that it ends up like that. And then let's just use the rest of this to the back side. It's really about just styling on this surface. Just mix it up. Let's work a little bit with Southern Smilex. I want to just sort of bring it down and maybe over. And let's put this underneath. and bring this over to the side. I'm gonna put in some of these beautiful Anthurium clavinarum because it's just, there's such a special foliage. So I'm gonna tuck those in where it could be seen and appreciated. I also have these beautiful Florida Beauty. So, and I'm gonna go ahead and also use that as well. Next is fern. So we're gonna go with a fluffy fern. It's just so lush. So we wanna showcase that. We want this to be like just super lush Hawaiian jungle, beautiful table. So we're really doing the kind of the jungle floor now, like just how it might look, you know, with all the lushness just on one on top of each other. This is just such an outstanding greenery. So I'm gonna just go ahead, and these are gonna be, actually they should be water tube. I'm just running out a little bit, so I'm just gonna tuck them in, but you can see how beautiful that looks. Lush, just adds that extra fluffiness right in there. And now we're also gonna use another one here. Actually, I have this beautiful color. Let's just use that as well, because I just think this just came from my garden. I actually have some garden roses. These are not much, but I found some in the garden, so go ahead and put that in as well. Just a few kind of David Austin type roses. You know what, this one's not looking good. Let's just take that out, put this one instead. Let's see if we can get this in. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. These are like our Sundance. Let's put that in there as well. And let's put this right next to this dahlia because it matches it almost perfectly. So let's tuck some of that in. So that it sort of shows up. Let some of this come forward. So I'm going to use all of those tucked in. Some of these ginger in here because they're nice and heavy. So we're getting a lot of the main flowers in here. I still want to put in some roses, the peach colored roses in here. Makes it nice and heavy so that it doesn't topple off the table. And then I'm just going to start to just fluff it up with tropical nouveau with some of the temperate flowers. So I'm going to do that now. So last night, as we were finishing up this whole setting, the installations, the flower cloud, and also the table for the sweetheart table, table design. We actually got rained out, and also it got dark towards the end when we were trying to conclude. So we quickly sort of ran about and pulled out some of the flowers that were going to be the touchiest, which are the dahlias. So I pulled those out last night so that I can insert them in today. And this is going to be good because as I'm inserting some of these, I can kind of give you a little tour of what I actually used in this and how it really works. So I'm going to start out with the dahlias because they are the most tenderest. And so I had to pull them out, and I'm just going to put them back in so that you can see how that works with the tropicals. These beautiful lush dahlia, and I want to place it where I can see it, and especially because from below, I think that's the real important thing here. And you can see how it works, that one flatters the other. Tropical Nouveau is truly about the difference. It's a story of difference. So this one, let's put it up in there. The beautiful peach color of the anthurium. There's a peach, the Toyama peach, and then there's just the real pretty coral colored anthurium. But just look at how beautiful the surface of this obake is to this gorgeous dahlia, and how the sleekness of the shape of the anthurium is just really an extension of the way that the petals of the dahlia shape. And the color mixes of the peach into that sort of the creamy yellow, which is repeated in the spadix of this particular anthurium. It's really like, it just marries everything together, because there's a little bit of the cream and then it goes to the yellow. And then so yellow to peach to kind of the coral against the lushness of the green. It's the whole total experience of tropical and the temperate climate world. I think that's the beauty of this, is that they can play against each other. And look at this beautiful heliconia, the peach pendant. It's so beautiful. It just drips and oozes the lushness of the combination of tropicals and the temperate flower. Here you can blend something that has traveled from the islands and marry it with the beautiful flowers that are in the gardens, in the temperate climate, and play off of the difference so that you put it side by side and show how beautiful one is against the other. That's really the whole story of Tropical Nouveau, that it's that story that needs to be told, and that's our job as florists, to be able to showcase what beauty is to us, because there's so many of the people, consumers out there, they only know that this exists in the other world and this world, that they're separate. What we're showing them is that it can blend, just like people, like cultures, it can blend. And the blending it in the right way that flatters each other, that upgrades each other, that makes both sides look even better, that sort of the symbiotic nature of the mixing is what the possibility that you can create with tropicals and temperates. So this is the final finish of the installation of the flower cloud. A little bit of rain didn't hurt. Everything is really lush and just really moist. Now I have a couple of these that I want to put back into this. So I'm just doing that right now. The rain that we had certainly was very helpful in making these flowers look good overnight. So let's put this one. This is another variety that's out of the garden that I'm going to place right in here. So it's got a slightly different color to it. It's got a little bit of lavender to it, which, by the way, picks up on the red violet, the pink of the anthurium. I also have just two of these burgundy-ish dahlias out of the garden here. So I'm going to tuck those in also, because this, you can see, provides the range of from the deep burgundy to the pinks that then transitions to sort of the peachy. And you can see how they worked. I mean, this was very quick to create. I think you saw in my yesterday's little demonstration of how this comes together. It's just kind of putting the whole thing together. Basically what I do is design by flower to flower. So I'll take all the anthuriums of one color and kind of design it rhythmically through this whole structure. And then I'll take the dahlias and I'll do that all the way across. I'll do the roses all the way across, so that basically you do it in waves of each flower, so that you can kind of space them in a certain cadence that it creates like a little music, a rhythm. And that way it doesn't look so static, like everything is just fixed. It looks like there's a sort of a visual movement that's being created with each material. And of course, the different foliages with its directional flow, so that it's in itself creates a different visual flow. This points to here, this then goes over to here. And then you carry it through on top of that with the vines, because vines are really what's the living out in the forest, out in the jungle, out in the wild. And so with that, you just actually flow the visual line of the vine and the tendrils that captures in through and flows out, so that you can see right to the growing tip how things really grow. Look how beautiful this is held up. This one was not in water overnight, but just the lushness of the humidity that we had overnight with the rain held it looking really, really great. But you can see how pretty that is. That's the way I like to actually use a passion vine. I usually leave the foliages, the smaller foliages that are to the tip, so you can clearly see the beauty of the growing tips, because that's really the most energizing, vital part of this material. And then the rest of it, I kind of strip it so that you can see the line and the flow. But again, I keep some of these little tips, because that's where really the energy is in these design, in this design. And so a combination of that, and of course we have also the temperate camellia as well, which kind of created the fill in this structure that made it possible for it to, kind of give the lush mix. One of the other thing that I wanted to point out is the use of some of these like shampoo ginger, and also these pink ginger. I really like them in this kind of a design, so that to create a focal, like a draw into different sections. But foremost, what I really like about it is that they have really heavy stems. Even though I don't use the long stem, but the stems are really heavy, so when I cut it down to like a 12-inch length, the weight of that kind of anchors into the mechanics of the chicken wire rolls. And so that's what keeps this feeling really heavy. Like you don't need rocks, you don't need it to be anchored to anything particularly if you don't have that. But the fact is, if you use some of this heavier material into the core and spike it into the chicken wire roll, you're gonna get the weight in all these different spots. This is really the clear picture, and of course the anthurium right in here, sedum. I mean, this is exactly what a tropical nouveau mix is to give you that lushness, the point of comparison. Look at the sleekness of this, the surface value of this the Sundance anthurium next to the beautiful unfurling petals of the roses. You know, it's something that we want all our customers to discover and say, wow, that is so cool. Because there was a day when we weren't allowed to do that. I mean, there were these weird design laws that told us that you can't have materials from tropics blending with the garden flowers. You know, we're saying, why not? Because you can make it happen and really tell a texture and color story. That's really what Tropical Nouveau is all about. We've gotten rid of the old rule that stopped us from going on to these wonderful design adventure. And it's really about discovering again how we can do this a little differently to create excitement for our customers. It's our job as florists to be able to showcase that excitement, that potential, that they can also have it in their arrangement in a home, or certainly in a beautiful wedding. That you can feel like you're on the island paradise and have the access to all these beautiful things. You know, there's no question to me that for a destination wedding in Hawaii, you know, whether you're coming from Japan, whether you're coming from Canada, from the mainland America, when you come to Hawaii, you have to have some Hawaiian tropicals in it, because that is the place. And the flowers in that design gives the design a sense of place. It belongs there. And so using it in such a way and marry it with the softness so that the romance still exists, and showcase it in such a way so that it just shows off the material as true gems against each other. Wedding installations using Hawaiian tropicals result in a unique and adventurous creative look in design that's still evolving with all the designers who are presenting through this conference. Hawaii Floriculture and Nursery Association, or HFNA for short, had the foresight to explore the expanse of possibility to use Hawaiian tropicals in a new way. to popularize it with a softer romantic mix in combination with the temperates to create tropical nouveau blend. This look is becoming increasingly popular with brides especially coming to get married in Hawaii. Through the annual Wedding Celebration Conference, they have created an excitement for the use of island-grown tropicals in beautiful wedding work. Mahalo to all the fabulous growers in Hawaii for providing beautiful products, and HFNA to be forward-thinking to stay on the trend curve. If you're enjoying your virtual visit to Hawaii this weekend here, start making plans and join us in person next year for this event. So for now, aloha!